Maya. I won the Candy Beats Beat Battle on November 22nd. Just want to say thank you for all the support I've gotten. I think I've gotten more likes and plays in the past 3 days than I have in the past 3 years. So I really appreciate all of it. Doing a beat breakdown, so let's get into it.
I like that. Bing bong. I like that.
All right, let's start off with the sample. That is the first thing I did, obviously. So I heard this part of the sample.
Drugs are really very bad. If you do them, it's very sad.
And I basically just wanted to loop that, but I knew that I couldn't loop the sample itself. I would have to add something to it or maybe manipulate it in some way to make it more interesting. So I brought in this electric piano. This is a free plugin I've had for a few years now.
Alright, so I'm editing the video and I realized that I forgot to say the most important part, which is I played the melody from the sample on the Rhodes keyboard.
Basically, the way the transition works from the sample to the Rhodes is you have a reverb and an EQ, a low-pass filter on both of them. On the sample, the reverb goes from dry to wet, and the EQ, the low-pass, comes down. But on the Rhodes, the reverb goes from wet to dry, and the filter comes up. So they kind of trade places like this.
Drugs are really very bad. If you do them, it's very sad. Drugs are really very bad. If you do them, it's very sad.
So yeah, that Rhodes plays throughout the whole thing, and I wasn't sure if that would consider enough sample usage for the battle, so I had some other chops in there as well from the sample. Yep. So on this, there's a hybrid reverb, a hollow supermassive, an amp, and an EQ just to cut the highs and the lows.
I like that. Bing bong. I like that.
All right, so next up we have the chords. It's the same electric piano, no effects or anything. It's a C major 7 over a G, a D major 7 over an F sharp, and an E minor 9. One of the reasons I like this chord progression a lot is because the bass note that I played on the Rhodes is different from the root note of the chord, right? So on the first chord you have a C major 7, but the root note, or the bass note I played was a G. And then the second chord is a D major 7, but the root note I played was an F sharp. So the chords are working their way up from C, D to E, but the root note is working its way down from G, F sharp to E. So they're both working their way towards the same place, but they're going in different directions. And I think that's why that E minor 9 chord feels so resolved and nice in the very end. About 20 seconds in, I have a Maverick piano. It's a contact piano. It comes in just to layer on top of the chords. And then the outro is a slightly different progression. It's still just the Maverick piano. So yeah, just a little bit different chord progression. So the ending is, distinct from the main loop.
I like that. Bing bong. I like that.
Next up, we got the bass. It's pretty simple. It's just a contact live bass guitar, Renaissance bass on it, a little bit of compression, just a little bit of EQ. Basically, the bass just follows the chords. But I wanted there to be like little fills at the end of some of the progressions. So I recorded 2 different fills. Here's the first one. And here's the second one.
I like that. Bing bong. I like that.
Alright, so I didn't explain this very well in the original recording, so I figured I'd do it here real quick. The drums are a loop that I made like a few days before the battle. I wasn't sure if I should break it down just because I didn't make the drum loop on the day of the battle, but since these videos are for education, I figured I would anyway.
So this is the Ableton file with the drum loop in it. All the drums are from the same Naji splice back. So the first part is this hi-hat loop that I chopped up. Then I basically just put a bunch of effects on it. And then there's 2 kicks and a snare. It's all perfectly locked on the grid. And there's another drum loop on here that I sped up. Probably what's the most important part is the snare rolls and the tom fills, which happen, leading into the 3 and the 1. And then on the master, just a little bit of drum bus, an EQ boosted the highs a bit, and then some light compression on top. So altogether, drums sound like this.
I like that. Bing bong. I like that.
So for the solo, the piano solo, I only had like 5 minutes left, so I couldn't really think about anything. I kind of just started hitting the E key over and over again, and I was like, I'm just going to see where this takes me. And it worked out pretty well. One thing to note about the solo is I wanted it to come in kind of an interesting way. So about around where it comes in, I cut out the drums, and I felt like I wanted to pull back more of the song, like just taking out the drums wasn't enough. So I also put this little filter on the master. So when the drums are pulled back, it's like everything in the song is pulled back together. So the solo really comes in when it comes in. And then for the outro, there's this little sine wave beat. It has reverb and an amp on it. Sounds like this. And then of course you need some kind of white noise or some kind of background element to fill in all the space. So I used restaurant noise for that. And then for the mastering, basically I just threw an RC20 on, and then just the bass Ableton glue compressor set to soft. Basically just a soft limiter to make sure it wasn't clipping. And that's everything. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully this was enjoyable. Try not to ramble too long. I tried to keep it short, but have a great day.
And one last thing that I forgot to mention. Thank you for RX9, Kenny. I used it to edit the audio of this video, and I used it to isolate your voice when you were saying bing bong on stream. And I think that's my favorite part of the beat breakdown, so thank you. Thank you.